Hello everybody and welcome to the start of the 2025 NFL draft cycle for me on this channel. I've personally been looking forward to this for a while, and trust me, I could have started talking about this draft a lot earlier, but I didn't want to be insincere or talking out of turn like I knew something when I really didn't. So I got to understand and watch at least the top 50, and now I feel like I can talk about the top of this class. Hopefully you guys like this, and if you do, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Let's get into it. With the first pick in this 2025 NFL mock draft, the Tennessee Titans select quarterback Cam Ward from Miami. You just can't sell your fans on another year with Will Levis. Hell, you might not be able to talk head coach Brian Callahan into another year with him. Now, it was a very tough decision to pick Cam Ward over Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter, who very well might be my #1 overall player when all said and done. Cam Ward is a very unique, creative, and deceiving quarterback. He plays a very relaxed game and likes to improvise, but he has some of the mechanics dialed in. He's more accurate than I think people give him credit for, and one thing I can't look the other way on is Ward's career trajectory. He was a wing T quarterback in high school, meaning he didn't throw much. 0-star recruit coming out of high school, ended up at the FCS level with Incarnate Word, where he spent 2 years. After throwing for 4,600 yards as a redshirt freshman, Cam transferred over to Washington State, where he spent another 2 years, throwing for a combined 6,966 yards, 48 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. He was maybe looked at as a late day 2 or a day 3 prospect last year, so he went back to school and spent this last year with Miami, and he improved to where he is now, and that's being talked about as the #1 overall pick in an NFL draft. I'll happily take the bet on this kid. The second pick in this mock, I have the Browns taking Travis Hunter, the two-way superstar from Colorado. This is mostly reliant on a Myles Garrett trade. If Garrett's traded away, you have to think rebuild, not using a quick and easy mindset, but more of a rip it down to the studs type. Taking best player available, Travis Hunter can help you from an overall standpoint, as I think he'd instantly be a face of the franchise player and an amazing foundation player to build on and around. The talent with Hunter is outrageous, and obviously playing on both sides of the ball takes a lot of it. The debate will be, until he hits the field in the NFL, where does he play? The Browns GM himself summed it up by saying, and I quote, "In terms of Travis Hunter, cornerback or receiver, the answer is yes." So he can play both, and I think that's what makes him special. We would see him as a receiver primarily first, but I think a part of, again, what makes him a bit of a unicorn is the fact that he can do both at a high level. In this situation, obviously the Browns like him at receiver, and that's fine, but I think it's so much to put him out there as a full-time receiver, then put him in on some snaps to play corner. From almost every standpoint, the opposite makes more sense. I wouldn't want him playing receiver all game and then say, hey, we're in the red zone, go guard Jamar Chase man-to-man to save the game. He'd have no feel or rhythm for the game, among other factors that would put him in a bad spot. And without rambling on too much, this could be a legitimate hour-long subject, and at some point I'll have to make that video. But bottom line, Hunter's an outrageously talented player with athleticism and upside at both receiver and at corner. Browns get a very solid player. Onto the third pick, which is under the control of the New York Giants, and they'll take Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback from Colorado. Big name prospect in Shedeur, off the board early, obviously a lot to go over. The Giants have been linked to Shedeur for a while after some of the chatter and interactions at the Shrine Bowl. Shedeur will start with a solid floor, and that lines up with Joe Shane and Brian Dable's job security. They need someone that can perform at a good enough level to save their jobs. I'll be very clear, I think very few folks look at and rank Shedeur as a top 25 player in this class from an overall big board aspect. I think the need for quarterback and the amount of value this position has is what ultimately pushes Shedeur up boards to that consensus top 5 to top 10 pick pedigree. I'm very much a person who wouldn't take Shedeur this high. I'd let someone else take him, and that's my opinion. That being said, he is accurate. The timing's slightly better than Cam Ward. The ability to read a defense and progress is what people are gravitating towards when it comes to Shedeur. I don't think his arm is average in the NFL. It's probably right below that mark. The sacks and pressure this guy creates for himself was a wild thing to watch on tape, and I don't think people quite understand how much of a problem it is. The NFL seems higher on him, and that's why he goes here, but I don't want this to come off as a bashing to Sanders. I'm just trying to be honest and share my thoughts on a prospect and a pick. There's a world where he's a bust, there's also a world where he's an average NFL quarterback, and there's even a world where he's a top 12 quarterback in the NFL at some point. Moving on to the 4th overall selection, the now Mike Vrabel-led Patriots select freak human edge rusher Abdul Carter out of Penn State. This could have been Tetairoa McMillan had Abdul Carter gone earlier. Vrabel even saying, you have to have some guys that can help Drake May on the edges and be able to make contested catches. That sounds a lot like Tetairoa McMillan. But he also went on to mention the Super Bowl and how that game was won in the trenches and with players up front on that line of scrimmage. When asked about the edge class, Mike said, I think it's a good draft, and obviously that's the case. When watching this good defensive line class, it's Abdul Carter, then everybody else. You have an uber talented player like Abdul Carter in this class who can do so much for you. He's a former inside off the ball linebacker who was a game wrecker at that spot. Penn State then moves him inside this past year, and he only got better. The physicality and the instincts at edge are standout qualities because of the linebacker background. But in just 1 year at the edge rusher position, he showed why he is some people's #1 player. His speed off the edge is unlike anybody in this class, and there's levels of twitch and loose movements that make him look like a wide receiver coming off the edge. Moving to Jacksonville for the 5th pick of the mock, and they'll be selecting Mason Graham, the star defensive lineman from Michigan. This was the easiest one so far, pretty much a no-brainer for me. The Jags are currently set with Mason Taylor and Devon Hamilton as your starters inside. Adding Mason Graham helps that look. Jacksonville hired new DC Anthony Campanelli, the former Packers linebackers coach. He described the scheme as a 4-3 with some 3-4 spacing, which I think fits perfectly for Mason Graham to give him opportunities next to Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker. They'll get different looks and hopefully get the chance to work off one another because Graham's ability to move is unreal for a man his size. You turn on the tape and you see a blue chip game wrecker. There is worries about his arm length. I don't really share those concerns. Dude's a baller in the middle of your line and you acquire a great football player. The Las Vegas Raiders are next in line. I have them selecting Ashton Jeanty, the record-breaking running back from Boise State. Don't click off the video just yet. Let me explain. I think about new head coach Pete Carroll. Old school, tough-nosed defensive coach who had Marshawn Lynch at one point. John Spytek, the new GM, he talked about the Eagles and Saquon. He mentioned traits like vision, instincts, hard to get on the ground, and setting the tone for a team when he was talking about running backs and prospects he covets at the position. Jeanty has all of those things. John Spytek, great name by the way, he talked extensively on players who are loyal to a program amid the college football landscape that's handing out money with NIL deals left and right. There seems to be an emphasis on the identity this team wants to consume. They want a tough team, competitive players, and they just want to win. Jeanty helps that. The O-line seemingly came together and played well down the stretch. Jeanty would be inserted and be a player you lean on after missing out on a quarterback in this draft. You could use corner here, but I don't think I'd rather have Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron more than I want Jeanty. He impacts this team the most and helps you win right away. New York Jets are on the clock and they're taking Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. This is starting to feel like a chalk pick, but it just makes sense. Warren embodies that mentality and type of player that Aaron Glenn has been openly seeking to join his team. Warren's an excellent blocker with good skills as a pass catcher too, but what will catch your eye is the extreme versatility. This guy lined up everywhere and did countless unorthodox things as a tight end for Penn State. Tyler Conklin's slated to be a free agent, and even if he re-signed, I'd still like this pick. A lot that fits and makes sense for this pick and this landing spot. Carolina's up, and I have the Panthers taking Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan. Bryce Young seemed to put it together and had success towards the end of last season. Now you can build on that and add a receiver that could be a quarterback's best friend. This guy Tet, he catches everything. T-Mac's tall, lengthy, and such an easy mover for his size. All you have to do is just throw it in the vicinity, and odds are he's catching that thing. If you're Carolina, you want to keep Bryce Young's development going. Tetairoa McMillan's a good way to keep that process up, and if those two can really click, there's no telling what T-Mac and Bryce can do in this league. Next in the draft order is the New Orleans Saints, and they're picking Will Campbell, the left tackle coming out of LSU, staying local. I like Campbell. I think he's the favorite to end up as my highest graded offensive lineman in this class, but the question is, does he stick at tackle? I do notice his lack of length sometimes, and it does cause some concern, but I think if he measures 33 inches and above in arm length, let him play tackle, and if he fails, you can move him inside after he fails. But if he's under 33 inches, I think I'd just have him replacing Lucas Patrick for the Saints and start him at left guard as a rookie from day one. If he ends up playing tackle for the Saints, I think he'd stick at left tackle. You move Talise Fuaga back to right tackle, where he played in college. Then Trevor Penning can experiment at guard or be your sixth offensive lineman. Saints fans, a lot of different ways this pick could go. Let me know what you like here at this pick and if you have an opinion on it. The Chicago Bears are up next, and they're picking Kelvin Banks Jr., another left tackle, but this one's from Texas. The Bears are likely going to go sign a big name out of free agency, but that's really not enough. I think this team and new regime want to overhaul this position, and I understand you have defensive needs, but there's some depth there in this class. I still think the focus is on Caleb Williams. If bringing multiple bodies in along that offensive line can help, I think they'll do it. Look at the trends around the league. Trench play is important and offensive line's harder to find. That's why I've gone with Banks here. I think it's also worth mentioning that I was considering James Pierce Jr. and Armand Membu here for those who were curious. The top 10 picks are behind us. To recap, the Titans get their hopeful franchise quarterback Cam Ward from Miami. The Browns get the Heisman winner and two-way player from Colorado, Travis Hunter, to start a rebuild. The Giants get Colorado's quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. The Patriots got Abdul Carter, an edge rusher who may be the #1 overall player, perhaps a steal for Vrabel and the Pats. The Jaguars got a wrecking ball in Mason Graham, an interior defender from Michigan. The Raiders get Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State back that came close to Barry Sanders' records. Yeah, he's that good. The Jets get Tyler Warren. He's as versatile as he could be as a tight end. The Panthers get a jump ball contested catch monster that can change games with receiver Tataroa McMillan. The Saints got the first O-lineman off the board, Will Campbell from LSU. The Bears followed the Saints, picking an offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. San Fran is up next, and I have the Niners taking Jahdae Barron, the do-it-all defensive back from Texas. Barron's an incredibly smart, versatile, and just good football player. He's played safety, nickel, and boundary corner all at a high level for Texas. Niners get Saleh back as the defensive coordinator, and I think Jahdae gives you a nice zone corner to play quarters, cover 3, or really whatever you need. He's a player you can give a lot of different assignments. This pick also replenishes corner after it looks like Charvarius Ward will be playing his football somewhere else next year. The Cowgirls are next on the clock, picking Kenneth Grant, a gift from the football gods, according to Jim Harbaugh. The big nose tackle from Michigan would come in and replace Mozzie Smith at that nose spot. Then Mozzie can try someplace else along the interior, especially now that Osa Odigizua is slated to walk. Kenneth Grant's an impressive athlete, very light feet for his stature, and just an amazing option on your interior defensive line. Grant plays strong and stout, he's hard to move, and the violence plus that hand usage helps, and he sheds blocks left and right. The Miami Dolphins are up, and I have them taking Armand Membu, the offensive lineman out of Mizzou. Armand would probably start at right guard off the bat. The Dolphins organizations operating like Teron Armstead will not be returning. When mapping it out like that, I think I'd have Patrick Paul at left tackle, Austin Jackson continues at right, then Membu, who played right tackle in college, would slide right inside to play right guard. The way contracts are, I think that just makes the most sense. But Membu's a great player, and some view him as guard 1 in this class anyways. Membu fits the scheme. He's a great player for reach blocks, second level work, and really good in a phone booth. We get to Indy with this next pick, and it'll be Gray Zabel, the FCS offensive lineman out of North Dakota State. This is a bit rich, but he really just fits here. Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, had emphasis on the trenches, like he always does. And with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, there's 2 starters that are free agents. Zabel dominated at the Senior Bowl. It didn't matter where this kid lined up, he was kicking everyone's butt on a rep-to-rep basis. Again, this is a bit high for him, but I do think it's possible. Gray's a great player and fits the mentality that Ballard likes. Atlanta Falcons picking at 15, and I have James Pierce Jr. becoming an Atlanta Falcon. James Pierce Jr. is an edge rusher from Tennessee and someone I view very highly in this class. The reason he's even been pushed down this far is because of the NFL's view on him. I don't know, and I doubt the character concerns that have come out about him, but to me it seems even outside of that, it seems like to me even outside of off-field concerns, the NFL will just land lower on this guy compared to how I viewed him. I'll put myself on the line right here by saying this, but I think James Pierce Jr. and Abdul Carter are close coming out. But Carter's ceiling is far higher than James Pierce Jr.'s. But in terms of right now, as rookies entering training camp, I'd still say Abdul's better, but not by a massive margin. I think James Pierce Jr.'s that good. You can't teach some of the stuff he pulls off. The play strength relative to his size is amazing. The fluidity and bend throughout his body is great. He's got a lengthy frame. Pierce is much better against the run than he ever gets credit for. I think this kid can be an outstanding player in the league. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals, and I'll have them selecting Jalen Walker, hybrid edge linebacker player from Georgia. This is actually low for him, at least it seems that way. A lot of well-respected draft analysts have Walker very high in mocks and on their own boards. This scheme has players like Zaven Collins, Baron Browning, and Dennis Gardeck, and I think the upside of Jalen clears them all, and maybe even combined. Just a phenomenal athlete. When he plays off ball, he's rangy, he's relentless, and he's the one dictating the blocks. And when he's off the edge, he's got traits and displays a little juice here and there. The Bengals are on the clock and they'll go with Tyler Booker, a guard from Alabama. Left guard Cody Ford's a free agent, and even if he wasn't, I'd still look to add O-line. But in this case, you get a plug-and-play left guard with Booker. Solid pass protector, a lot of strength in his game, and he's at his best when he lands his hands. When he gets you, you either hit the ground or are stopped where you stand. Great get for the Bengals in this draft scenario. Next pick, the Seattle Seahawks. I chose Shamar Stewart, a very impressive defensive end from Texas A&M. I really wanted O-line for this team, but there's none left. The Seahawks got the short end of the stick in this scenario, but I think Shamar Stewart's still a great player and helps the team out a lot. He'd probably be a 3-4 defensive end. This is a guy that weighed 281 pounds at the Senior Bowl and moved really well. He plays as strong as his size profile would implicate, but looks like he's 250 out there. The upside with this player is great. Sure, he lacked production in college, but I think the projection's easy. He's big, he's smooth, he's an elite athlete, and that all tends to go high in the draft. Tampa's up, and the Bucks go with Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. He obviously wasn't playing the best competition out there, but my goodness, Mike Green recorded an FBS leading 17 sacks and tore it up last year. A lot of speed, twitch, and he actually has a deep arsenal of moves. He's smart and physical against the run. A lot to like from him on the field, but there is off-field concerns, and he actually got excused from the Virginia program because of them. A lot of respected people still have him in the first round and even inside the top 10, so this might actually be later than he goes when we get to the real thing. To wrap up the 20s, the Denver Broncos are taking Colston Loveland, former Michigan tight end. I followed the Broncos close because I was a very big fan of Bo Nix throughout last year's process, and there's no denying they need pass catcher. Loveland won't be good as a blocker. He won't be someone propelling your run game. He's just a big slot move tight end that'll offer you an option that can run faster and move better than linebackers while giving safeties trouble with physicality. We'll quickly go over the last 10 picks from selections 11 to 20. At 11, the 49ers picked Jahdae Barron, a nice cover corner who's more than versatile enough to play a big role on that defense. Dallas gets Kenneth Grant, a big human with gifts beyond belief to play that interior defender role. The Dolphins address the offensive line, going Armand Membu to play right guard. At 14, Indy also dips into the O-line well, grabbing a great competitor in Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. At 15, Falcons get one of my favorite values in this draft so far with edge rusher James Pierce Jr., a very good athlete out of Tennessee. At 16, Cardinals got Jalen Walker, a hybrid player that had experience off the ball as a linebacker for Georgia, but could be seen as a very Tracy edge player. At 17, Bengals solidify the offensive line, getting Tyler Booker, a guard out of Alabama, to hopefully patch a hole. At 18, Seattle lost out on an offensive lineman, leaving them Shamar Stewart, another incredible athlete in this defensive line class. At 19, Tampa Bay Bucks select Mike Green, a fast edge rusher out of Marshall. At 20, Broncos cap it off, picking Colston Loveland, a mismatch at tight end to catch passes and play an important role in that offense. The Steelers pick Will Johnson to start the next batch of picks. The Michigan corner is probably the biggest fall of this draft, but it's also something that we've been seeing as a trend lately, and I don't really think he's a perfect fit for this team, but the man is too talented to pass a team with the need this big. Joey Porter Jr. hasn't been as consistent as you'd like, Cam Sutton slated to be a free agent, and the depth outside isn't anything to write home about. Will Johnson's dealt with injuries, and now, rumor has it, people are starting to become concerned with his speed. I never viewed Will Johnson as a surefire top 10 prospect, and now it looks like that could be the consensus on him. The Chargers and Harbaugh are going with Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Free agents for Los Angeles include Morgan Fox, Poona Ford, and Tier Tart. You need to put bodies inside to replace them, and Walter Nolan's a good option to do so. Nolan wasn't all that great with Texas A&M, but something was unlocked this past year with Ole Miss. This dude's so fast off the line, plays with great strength, and especially when he's got leverage, good run defender, and someone that can develop a lot as a pass rusher. The Green Bay Packers are up, and they go with Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. A surprise pick, and even a surprise to me as a Packers fan. I don't know why I haven't seen this, but it makes some sense, to me at least. Height, weight, speed freak with versatility, and we just saw what a good linebacker does for a defense with Edgerrin Cooper. I would probably prefer Tyleik Williams here, but I think Jahad checks more boxes and tends to be viewed higher by just the NFL. Back-to-back NFC North teams selecting, and the Vikings are the one up this time, and I have Omarion Hampton going to Minnesota. Hampton's the second running back picked in this first-round mock draft, and I think you'll understand why. Hampton's size is very imposing, with speed to match that, and a true 3-down skill set. Aaron Jones and Cam Akers are both free agents. Hampton gives you youth and someone to build a run game around. Houston's going with Donovan Jackson, an interesting prospect when talking about draft range and his season. Jackson's a guy with first-round buzz right now. I don't know if he's quite there, but for the sake of it, let's say that the Texans view him in that light. Donovan Jackson was playing guard, then the starting left tackle goes down injured. Donovan fills in and excels at tackle down the stretch, winning a national championship. But I think he'll be evaluated as a guard, with that left tackle stint looking real nice on the resume. Again, I don't know if I'll land on a first round grade for him, but it's far from out of the question. LA Rams picking Emeka Egbuka, very much a Rams flavor for a receiver. Emeka's a very smart and technical player, but I don't think people are giving him enough credit as an athlete. I think he can hit the ground running in the league, especially with the blocking ability he possesses. Cooper Kupp could be traded, Demarcus Robinson's a free agent, and there's not really a lot in that core outside of Puka Nacua. Emeka would come in and solve problems for that room, but this pick could really go any which way depending on Matt Stafford, and considering there's a lot of different needs for the Rams. So Rams fans, let me know. Baltimore Ravens up at 27. I went with Savone Revel Jr., the East Carolina cornerback. He's coming off an injury that halted his season after just 3 games. But 2023 was great for him, and what makes him a first-round prospect is the intangibles. 6'1.5", 190 pounds, runs like the wind, moves damn well for his size. I don't care if he's playing at a lower level, especially when measuring the athlete. There's times he's in the back pedal or screws something up mechanic-wise, but just out-athletes the opposition by miles. Detroit's next on the clock. They're given Nick Scorton in this mock by me. I don't like the disrespect on Scorton. In 2023, over the summer, I viewed him as a possible #1 overall pick. Now people say he's too big, he got slower, he wasn't all that productive. I watched the tape and I still see at least a first rounder. The motor's as good as you'd want, Lions type of guy. I still think he's a well above average athlete for his size, and the power still exists. Someone needs to tell me what I'm missing. The Lions get a steal. What a rise for Washington, picking 29th. And with that pick, I have him going Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morrison, a corner from Notre Dame, could be the steal of the draft. I like the fit to Washington as well. He plays well in man coverage. Press man's a very familiar and comfortable spot for Ben. I think this player's talent and tape is potentially the best as a pure cover corner, but the holdup is his hip injury. I'm not going to pretend to know anything inside and have all that info because I don't. It hasn't seemed to be good, and I think he could fall out of the first entirely because of it. I just hold on to the fact that he declared. If he got bad news, I don't think he's declaring for the NFL draft. That all said, I'm not sure how this pick will age, but if it were to work out, in this situation, we could see a massive steal with Benjamin Morrison. The Buffalo, close once again, Bills pick next, and they get big man Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Tyleik's a massive human, and I hate when people try pairing Ed Oliver with another undersized interior player. So I'll go polar opposite and give him a mammoth. You can't move Tyleik. You can't stop Tyleik against the run. He's even got light feet for his size. He's one of my favorites to watch, and for good reason. I have a feeling he'll pick up steam as we go, but Bills fans, what do you think? Wrapping up the last 10 picks again, at 21, Steelers steal Will Johnson and stopped his fall. The corner out of Michigan gets a chance to change that secondary. At 22, Chargers got Walter Nolan, a player that could go much higher than this. The defensive tackle from Ole Miss lands in a good spot with good coaching. At 23, Packers surprisingly pick Alabama linebacker Jahad Campbell. He's very versatile and kind of really good athlete. At 24, Vikings strike the running back class and get Omarion Hampton from UNC, a do-it-all, three-down type of player. At 25, Texans get an intriguing prospect with Ohio State's Donovan Jackson to play guard after becoming a CFP champ at tackle. At 26, Rams get a very Rams player, and that's Emeka Egbuka, a smart and tough receiver from Ohio State. At 27, Ravens go for upside, selecting Savone Revel Jr. out of East Carolina, a great athlete at his great size. Lions get a very underrated edge player, Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. Commanders gamble on Ben Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame. The tape's as good as any, just ran into some injury problems. Bills got a very healthy sized interior defender in Tyleik Williams, and once again, another guy out of Ohio State. Kansas City takes Josh Simmons, Ohio State's left tackle, with the second to last pick in this mock. Injury-related issue drop him this far down, but much like Ben Morrison, you could argue that he produced the best tape in this class at his position. But injury trouble looms large in the NFL. Power? Great. Movement in his base? You bet. Smart? Yeah. Simmons checks a lot of boxes and was great this past year, but how will this injury affect him moving forward? If you're the Chiefs, you really hope it doesn't. Eagles, with the last pick of the mock, select Mykel Williams, the Georgia edge rusher. I think they'll end up losing both Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, so you put another Georgia Bulldog on this defense and develop him just like the rest. Mykel's kind of polarizing from what you hear, but the NFL seems to like him. This might be a little low for him even, but you're getting a big, traitsy edge player who defends the run well, and I surely wouldn't be one to complain in this scenario if I was on that Eagles staff. There you go. A full 32 pick, first round NFL mock draft. If you have anything to say, feel free to be an unhinged lunatic and go crazy, or leave a nice adult comment saying or asking something related to the content from this video. Hopefully y'all liked it. If you did, make sure to consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It'd mean a lot, and I'll see you guys next time. Deuces.